Everyone, and welcome to another local show on Football Talk Podcast. My name is Ozzy, and I'm your host for this evening. Now, the title of the show may come across as disrespectful to some, especially if you're slotting, as it appears that he's getting sacked, yeah, and that seems to be the notion at the minute. For me, as a fan, I've been quite frustrated with Arne Slot's coaching ability this season, and the defeat against Nottingham Forest was the last straw for me. I've had enough, if I'm being very strong there, and I feel like it's time for the club to move on and try and find another person that can take this club forward. So therefore, I thought it might be wise to do a show where we can go through potential candidates, whether it's on an interim basis, someone that can come in and settle the ship until the end of the season, or maybe we look at long-term candidates, whether they're available or not, people that we can discuss, or there might be names where we've forgotten that they're not managing right now. So that's why I thought let's do a show where we can speak about certain names. None of these names are managers that I definitely want, so it's just a discussion. So if you see one or two weird or managers that you don't feel like fit the bill, just take it with a pinch of salt. There's a reason why I've added them today. So let's start with the first one, and that is interim option. So the first candidate, of course, where else can I start? Now, ever since he did that podcast interview for Dario CEO, that's been the segment that's been clipped and it's been circulating all over social media that if he was to return to management and in particular Liverpool, he would do it. He would consider it. And before even I get into that statement, I've tried to look at the whole situation. Is it wise to reappoint someone that has left the club after a long period of time? Initially, my reaction would be no, because he's been at the club for 8, 9 years, and the reason why he left wasn't based on results. It was based on him not having the energy, and he thought this is his limitations. He can't go any further. And since then, he's not had another managerial position. So therefore, he's taken a seat back from management. He's gone on to do other things. He's involved in the operations at Red Bull in terms of all of their clubs. He's just signed up to be a pundit for the German channel for the World Cup next year. So he's not thinking about being a manager, or that's not really in his forte. He managed for a very long time. 7 years at Mainz, 7 years at Dortmund, and it was almost nine at Liverpool. So 20 plus years of management, and he's not the type of manager that is very sort of laid back in his approach, to say the least. Uh, he's the one of the most energetic managers, and that can be draining for an individual to be the sort of the soul of a club. He's done that Mainz, Dortmund, and Liverpool. All clubs were not in great positions before he came, and he turned it around at those clubs. So because of that, it's taken a lot out of him, and it's understandable in terms of why he thought he didn't have the energy or didn't have the capacity to continue because he was at the club for such a long time. That interview changes my perspective a little bit. For him to say that it would be the only time he would consider it. If Liverpool do want to go through that interim route, there is no other person but Jurgen Klopp for me, and for a number of reasons. Of course, familiarity. He knows the club. He hasn't been that long since he left. So if he knows he's only coming there to settle the ship for the rest of the season, it won't be where the expectations are different. We will just be pleased to see him back. I'm sure that would be the universal reaction. But I feel like he could galvanize the squad again, and he could, rejuvenate the way we the mentality of the squad, because I mentioned this on yesterday's show. One of the phrases that Jurgen Klopp used to describe his teams was mentality monsters. We're far from it. Hmm. We're simply monsters for the wrong reasons on the pitch. So even him returning to settle the ship, I think would be a wise decision. But let's think out loud. Is that realistic? I'm not too sure. And the reason I say I'm not too sure, with Michael Edwards back at the club, I don't know if that's the route they would want to go, i.e., Michael Edwards. Would he want to work with Jurgen Klopp again? I'm not saying they've had, severe issues. Of course, they had a breakdown in their relationship, but they seem to be quite amicable, and they are, they've always said good things about each other, since Michael Edwards left those years ago. So I don't know if that would be the route they would go with. But if you're looking at someone that can come in and settle the ship with their experience, with their know-how, and I actually feel like this squad is pretty much built to play football. Like I really do. So for me, this would be the rare occasion I'm like, you know what, it might be worth just going back to former coach and allowing him to come in and settle the ship. Kind of similar to what we did with Kenny Dalglish when we sacked Roy Hodgson. It's similar kind of scenarios where we felt like it couldn't get worse. And we needed someone to galvanize not just the squad, the fan base, because I feel like the fan base are quite split. I think it's more thought out than in. I don't want it to be, a competition or anything like that. But that is the kind of feelings I'm getting amongst Liverpool fans online and people that I speak to. So I would say this would be a smart appointment if they wanted to have a short term fix. Um, so yeah, let me know in the chat what you guys think. If this would be a wise thing for Liverpool to consider. Just gonna go through some of the comments before we move on to the next manager. Bo says, Aussie Manji, big up, Bo. I hope you're doing well. He said, get Jurgen back. The more I think about it, I'm on that boat as well. And I generally believe that it's the interview that's really switched my mind because when someone's left the club and you don't really hear them talk about becoming a manager again, you feel like they're retired, or they're just doing a part-time sort of role where the expertise are there to be used as a consultant rather than a hands-on person on the pitch or coaching or anything to that nature. But because of that interview and the timing was crazy because it happened just after consecutive defeats, I thought, you know what, we could go back there. We could go back there. So uh let's see. She's saying evening Everton. Yeah, I saw Everton's result there. But they're above us now, aren't they? Which yeah, it's crazy. To say out loud. Wayne, big up Wayne as always. He said, "Big up Aussie. Klopp isn't a manager that suits him being on interim manager. He needs time to get what he wants across." I hear you. On paper, I wouldn't say he is an interim manager. He really isn't. But I think because it's Liverpool, and I know we've made a lot of signings, but a lot of the players that are still part of the squad were top signings as well. I feel like he's the only one qualified to actually come in and settle the ship for the rest of the season. Like it wouldn't be anyone else in my eyes that has the credentials to do that. And I think he'll only do it until the end of the season. I don't think he'll view it as, oh, I'm back, or maybe I've got the taste for it again. I want to sign another 5 year. I don't think that will happen. I think he'll say, look, for the love of the club, I'll come in and I'll do it for the fans. I think that would be the way he would look at it. And I think he'll just try and do his best. And maybe he'll even, give suggestions in terms of who can take over as the season concludes. So that's the way I'm looking at it. But anyone else, I'm not uh, quite so sure, to be honest with you. Bo says feels like he regrets it a little bit, maybe because we won the league title the following season with the same team. Um, that might be the case, but you have to respect the decision because he was managing for such a number of years, and he was doing it where you know it was a emotional roller coaster for him. He wears his heart on his sleeve. That was the type of manager he was. So no, we talk about players under Klopp that have gone through it. The the the, the years that they've played and it's taken a toll on his body. It, I know Jurgen Klopp wasn't physically playing, but emotionally and physically as well, it takes a toll on your body as well as a coach in terms of the way he motivates the squad, and he takes and soaks all that pressure away from the squad, which is what I really appreciate with Klopp. And that's something I'm not seeing that with Slot. And there's no, maybe I'm wrong here. I don't see there being a connection between Arne Slot and the fans the way it was with Klopp and the fans. Maybe because of the roles. Of course, Jurgen Klopp was a manager, so he had a bit more hands-on responsibilities surrounding the club as well as on the pitch. Oh, Slot, it kind of just feels like I'm a coach and that's it. Business is business. Like there's nothing more to it. And I feel like when you're a Liverpool manager, you have to be like the people's champion. You have to be someone that that embodies the club, and that's how we build that connection with the manager. We always hold our managers at high regards, but I'm not feeling that connection. And the way I'm looking at it is that if Slot was to get sacked, I wouldn't feel disappointed by it. I feel like for me, I'm frustrated by what he's done this season, so I'll be like, phew, bit of a relief. Who are we gonna get? That's how I would look at it. But if I was to like sit down and see what he's done for us, there isn't a emotional connection with the coach, if that makes sense. So yeah, that's how I'm viewing it. Bo says Stevie G as interim. Bear with me. We will speak about him very, very shortly. Lisa, big up, Res. Big up, Lee. I hope you're well. Bo says Slot has ruined Klopp's hard work. So sad. Yeah, and Wayne agrees. It does feel like it. So that's why I feel like he can come back, patch things around, and then next season we go for someone who we regard as the long-term future of the club. That's how I would look at it. So yeah, it's an interesting one. But I think it depends on the club who they would want to replace Arne Slot. If it's an interim coach, I think it would be Jurgen Klopp, and he would only do it for Liverpool. I don't think it would be for any other club. He would see what's going on at Liverpool. He'll feel like it's his responsibility to come in and settle the ship. That's what I would, gather from his personality and the way he is and the way he carried himself when he was the Liverpool manager. Um, Another person that we could consider is Steven Gerrard. I would have a bit of reservations with Steven Gerrard, and the only reason is just because of his sort of recent roles where it didn't work in Saudi. The Aston Villa role, he showed pictures of good form as a manager, but in the end, it kind of fell apart. The Rangers one, he showed his pedigree, where he's won a league title there, brought it back after a long sort of absence of time for that club to even win a league title. With Celtic running with it every year, he brought it back to Rangers. So if Jurgen Klopp is not interested, which you can't rule out, I know he said in the podcast that he would consider it, but he might look at the structure and think it doesn't suit me. But with Steven Gerrard, what he would bring is that good feel factor back to the club, where I think the fans will be fully on board in terms of that connection. That it's a former player, someone we hold in very high regards, and we know it's an interim role, so we're just going to support him because he's one of our own. I feel like that's what it will be viewed at. The only sort of cons would be that, you know, is he up to the job in terms of quality? You know, is he going to win those tactical battles against, you know, the top coaches and all that sort of stuff? I'm not so sure. So that would be my reservation, but he would be an alternative if we couldn't get Jurgen Klopp, where you know he comes in, brings that good feeling again because of his stats, of his stature and his status of being a Liverpool legend, and that's what we might need, you know, because I feel like this is just me speaking. League title's gone. Like, we're not even considering that conversation anymore. And the other competitions, I'm not really too focused about it. So, but at the same time, he could come and do a terrible job, and it could hinder his legacy at the club. So I'm not too sure. Shout out to Uncle Rods. He came on the show yesterday as part of a call-in, and he mentioned maybe Jurgen Klopp returns on an interim, and then we have Steven Gerrard as the number two. On paper, it kind of I see the logic because you've got experienced coach and you've got Gerrard there. You can learn of Jurgen Klopp, and then maybe with a bit of experience, he gets to become the number one. But if that was a route that Liverpool wanted to take, it would have been done a few years ago, in my opinion. And I don't feel like Steven Gerrard would accept being a number two. And that's not him showing too much pride or showing a bit of an ego by it. I feel like he believes in his ability and he feels like he's good enough to be the head coach at another club. I genuinely believe that. You know, he's very close to re-signing for Rangers, and I feel like he's taking his time for that next role. So I think for him, he wants to be a first team coach slash manager. You know, wherever he goes. So this wouldn't be my favorite sort of appointment. Of course, if it's Gerrard, then I'm gonna get excited because I'll just think of the player itself. But his experience would be a concern for me because I feel like at this stage we do need someone who can come in and you know you use their experience to their advantage and try and help us in this sort of difficult time that we're going through. So it's an interesting one. He'll bring that good feel factor, but I would question his experience and pedigree as a coach as well. But that's just my opinion on Steven Gerrard. Just going to go through some of the comments before I move on to the next candidates. Uh, Excuse me. Lee Whiskey says Steven's not ready to coach full time yet. He needs to do a championship side, then back to the Prem before he gets a big chair. I hear that. That's why I'm not fully on board. I just feel like based on a couple of spells where it didn't work out, I feel like he needs to refine his skills and maybe in the future he could be a candidate, but at this stage, I'm not so sure. But if he was to get the Liverpool job, it would be based on his, status and him bringing that good feel factor once again, or that connection with the fans, because I feel like that's what's a miss right now with the current manager slash coach in Arne Slot. Lee says not ready to coach us. I mean, yeah, I hear you. I hear you on that one. Wayne says controversial take. Personally, I don't want CVG anywhere near the manager's job at Liverpool. One, because he's inexperienced for a club, big club like ours, and two, I don't want him to ruin his legacy. I did touch on that, and I hear you on that, Wayne. The only thing, because he'll be interim, I don't think he'll damage his legacy unless we're towards the relegation zone. Then, bloody hell, that would be a concern, and unfortunately, that would tarnish his legacy. But I hear you. I do hear you because with the roles that he's done, only the Rangers one's the one I feel like he showed you know potential of being a top coach there, winning the league in a difficult situation. But other than that, I've not seen it. So I don't want us to you know, do trial and error right now. If we were to, dismiss Slot, it has to be someone that comes in and can do a job straight away. So yeah, I do hear your point on that one. Ball says Klopp was the people's coach. He is the type of guy you can see in the streets of Liverpool every day. But with Slot, I feel like he's a very different character. Doesn't even have his family with him. Yeah. Uh, More like hiding in his passion every day type. Yeah. I mean, everyone's different. Some people are introvert, extrovert. I get it, but when you take this role, you have to build a connection with the fans and the city, and especially if you look at Liverpool's history, you know what it entails. It's part of the job, and he's not the first one that will have come to realize that he should have known this beforehand. So yeah, there is no connection in that regards. So yeah, I hear you on that one. Lee says you need a nap, Aussie lad. Oh, is that in terms of my cough? No, no, I've just had a cough for about a couple of weeks. So yeah, apologies. Um, yeah. At least even though Klopp admitted he'd only been into town twice off duty. Yeah, probably, but I think it was the sort of the charity things that he did as well. Because I've not really seen Slot be a part of stuff like that, uh, and I feel like his main focus is just to be coach. So because of that, there is no connection, and maybe it's his personality as well. He's not charismatic as Jurgen Klopp, so that is probably what comes across as maybe his personality is a bit cold in comparison. But I've seen it online. I've seen other content creators talk about this, and they always share the same sentiment that there is no connection with this current coach. So yeah, even though he might have been in the town center a couple of times, but you can't tell me like he wasn't a people's person. Wherever he was, you could tell he stopped. He'd speak to people. Spend a bit of time with them. Even after games, you'll see signing autographs and all that sort of stuff. So that's what I see. But for me, it's the off the field stuff that he did for charities, for the Liverpool Foundation. That's what really helped build, I think, his connection with the city. So yeah, that's how I would look at it. To be fair. But also, what's that done to the city then? Donated, helped children and schools? I wouldn't even know because it's not been presented to us unless I've missed it. I don't know, to be fair. He said funny one was when Jones and Gakpo were driving around for some LFC TV thing. Young crossed the road with his dog in front of them. Really, I don't remember seeing that. I was listening. I found him endearing, honest. Fair enough. No, I haven't seen that. That's quite funny, to be fair. Um, Big up Alme says Brazilian. Say maximum over. Alonso is outrageous. What the F is going on with Real Madrid's hierarchy? I'm not too sure. We'll speak about Alonso. I have got him listed, so we'll talk about him very shortly as well. So, of course, those two candidates are free agents as well. But I thought, let me delve in to see who else is not affiliated with a club right now, and maybe they could be regarded as a short to medium term appointment. I think Jurgen Klopp and Steven Gerrard would be interim until the end of the season. But the names I'm about to mention are maybe they could take up the role further than this season if they were successful and we see progress in the team. So bear with me. A lot of them are unrealistic, based on their stature, but we'll talk about it. So one is Zinedine Zidane. It's definitely unrealistic when you say out loud, he's a free agent. He's not, working as a coach anyway. Although I have a feeling that he's going to become the French coach after the World Cup. I think that's what's been earmarked. I think the Champs will be leaving after the competition, and I think there has been discussion. That's been the rumors in the background. So no, not realistic for me, unfortunately. Um, but in terms of the profile, he's a winner as a player. as a manager. Um, and I feel like he would demand respect and authority within the club, and I feel like he would be a real leader going forward. So this would be, I guess, one of the dream candidates, I would say, but I just don't see it being realistic. So today I'm gonna build up some dream ones as well, just to paint a picture. But yeah, also I don't feel like just from his history. I don't feel like England appeals to him as a destination, whether it was to play in or in this situation to manage. So I feel like he would rather, manage the national team or like where he managed Real Madrid, or another would be like a former club like Juventus, for example. I don't think he would want to move over to England and manage Liverpool because, of course, he doesn't have that affinity like that. And I don't feel like he wants to test himself as a coach out of his comfort zone as well. So that's one of the reasons why I don't feel like a job in England would be on his top of his list. That's how I look at it. To be fair, um, have you seen the buying space post on Nagelsmann? Let me quickly bring that up. I haven't been on social media for the last couple hours, so let's have a look. If you have the quote, I'll definitely bring onto the screen. But let's see if I can. Oh, it's quite a detailed detailed tweet. Um, there's been contact apparently from Richard Hughes regarding the future availability of Nagelsmann. Um, I'll just leave it at that because there's quite a lot of details there. But that is someone I will be discussing today, and I feel like he's more of a realistic appointment. I don't think he would join us now. He'd probably wait after the World Cup, but that's why I brought the discussion of having an interim person for the time for the time being. Lisa, who was your first candidate? I'll go through all of them, and then I'll give you my verdict towards the end. Um, and then yeah, we can discuss in more detail. Lee says, "No, not happy." In terms of Dan, yeah, I agree. I just feel like I had to raise the profile on screen. Uh, Mr. Barry Smith, pick up yourself. He says, "I don't think this will happen." I agree, Barry. I don't think it will happen either. But no, maybe if I've just put that out there, the in the universe, the energy might change. But no, I don't think so either. I'm gonna say, yeah, France national job. That's what I see happening in the near future as well. It's Alonso Nagelsmann. Alonso's an interesting one. We'll talk about him very shortly. Bo says, no, Zidane. He doesn't talk English or have a play style. He was just relying on Ronaldo and Benzema. Not a good enough coach. Fair enough. Uh, Ahmed said Inzaghi, Alonso, Nagelsmann for me. I haven't even considered Inzaghi. Inzaghi's in Saudi now, isn't it? So, yeah, maybe not on my sort of top of my list, but definitely a candidate. No English is no good. His head's shiny. Yeah, he's got a shiny head in it. Ahmed says, basically, Hughes has met with Nagelsmann in the approach. So that's positive, I guess, to an extent. Um, I agree it's more realistic. He casually inquired, I think was the quote, rather than made an offer to him. Yeah. I feel like it was just picked up the phone and asked, what's your situation rather than anything else. Inzaghi has a buyout clause inside the contract. Okay. I know, of course, Inzaghi, brought Inter Milan to the Champions League final last season. I don't know. Tactically, I would have to look into it a bit more, but he doesn't spring me as someone that I feel like is top of the list. That's how I would look at it, to be fair. And you said apparently he's learning English the last few months. Yeah, interesting. Let's see what happens with Inzaghi. Now another one. I skipped one manager there. Is Thiago Motta. So he was getting rave reviews as the Bologna coach, where he helped them qualify for the Champions League, and his tactics were quite different in terms of the way he was playing, and a lot of players really stood out. The likes of Calafiori, he really stood out under his regime, and that helped him get a move to Arsenal. Zetsky, I know he's a bit of a flop out at United, but he performed really well there, and that's how he raised his profile and got the move to Manchester United. So, he's definitely got an ideology of how to play. It's very much on the front foot, very attack minded play. But then he made that move to Juventus, and I don't think Juventus was the right fit for him because they're not renowned to play that sort of overly attacking football. It's more structured, more compact, and I just feel like the his vision of playing didn't match the ethos of the club. So that's why I don't feel like it was a good fit, and he was only there for 9 months. Um, so yeah, I feel like it wasn't the right fit for him. But he's a free agent right now, so he could be someone that can come in, and we can see um, how it is, in terms of how he can, progress as a coach. My reservation would be, is his tactics or is he suited to the English game? That would be my reservation. So yeah, a name to consider, but not for me. Someone we have to really go all out for, in my opinion. Another one is Xavi. Now, of course, a formidable player in his heyday for Barcelona. As a manager, he showed a decent spell at Barcelona, but then again, he was, given a very talented squad at his realms. But in terms of his philosophy, of course, tiki taka comes to mind. So maybe that's something that can be deployed there. I remember him having an interview where he said that an English job would appeal to him, so he would consider moving to England. As well, in his words, he believes that he would be interested to do a project because in England it's not really about the results; it's about the project altogether. Yeah, you're mistaken. It is about the results, and for Liverpool, it's about get back to winning ways. So if that's the way he feels, it's not going to work. If that is a coach's mentality, then they're better off at a club where the expectations are low and you know any success is a kind of a bonus for them. For Liverpool, we are trying to be elite. We're trying to win the top trophy. So for me, I don't think he would be a right fit for Liverpool. Um, but yeah, you never know. He's a free agent, so it could be someone that the club considers. So slightly out of the box suggestion here in George from Law, of course, the former German national team coach. Unfortunately, renowned for picking his nose on the pitch more than anything else, which is quite a disgusting thing to say out loud. But he's an experienced coach, so maybe if he wanted to go through that route, he can come in and try and set the ship. My thing would be that in terms of the way his teams played, they weren't really full on attack, but they were very defensively sound teams the way he would orchestrate it. So maybe that would be a suggestion, but I'll put the name out there because he's a free agent and he's of high profile, but not for me either. So yeah, feel free to let me know what you guys think. Just gonna go through some of the comments before I move on. Mr. Barry Smith Murphy, sorry, says, "Do you think Slot will get sacked soon?" I think he will. I don't know, to be fair. I think he should. That sounds very disrespectful, but I think he should. I feel like they'll give him until the end of December and then they'll make that decision. But I feel like that's a little too late. If we don't get the results this week, I feel like it's time to just walk away and find another manager. Because we're facing West Ham this weekend, and they are 18th in the league, from what I remember. They're managed by Nuno Espirito Santo. He was the coach that beat us 1-0 as Nottingham Forest coach last season. So Slot had nightmares for months and months about that result. So we've struggled with those type of teams, i.e. low block, long balls. So Stotts told the whole world that we don't have a solution for it. So what's the point? Um, so I feel like for me, the Forest one was the final straw, and I've said it quite a few times. I'm Slot out. I don't see a way back for him just because he hasn't shown anything this season. He's not shown the adaptability to change tactics or to tweak the team in order to facilitate the players we have or to try and get results on a game to game basis. He's not shown that at all for me. So I feel like he should be dismissed pretty much now, if I'm being honest with you. But I feel like they're giving him the benefit of the doubt and maybe see how it goes in the next few weeks. And then they'll make their decision from there onwards. So to answer your question, I think he will, but it will be closer to the January window. I think that's when they'll start looking at other candidates. I think he should be dismissed now, but let's see what happens. Lee says Nagelsmann has surprised as most Germans speak great English. Yep, I take Thiago Alcantara as a coach. What? As a coach, yes, but would it as in to replace Slot? I don't know. Although I think Thiago would be a great coach in the near future. I feel like he maybe needs to find a role where he's first team coach, get used to being the main manager at a club. Find out what everyone like, the likes of Steven Gerrard, all these players, once they leave, they have to find a club to gain that managerial experience because it's not just you being a great player, being a manager is a different kettle of fish. So you have to earn your stripes in that way. So if he can do that, I feel like in the future, yes. Um, if you were to appoint a coach and he came in as the number two, that would be a very interesting one as well. So yeah, I would love to see Thiago Alcantara come back because he's one of my favorite midfielders of all time. So not even just as a Liverpool player, before he even signed for Liverpool, I was ecstatic that we got him because I've always admired him from his Barca and Bayern Munich days. So yeah, so if he comes back, I'm all for it. Yeah. Um, Lisa don't like his style much. A personal preference only. Mind. Xavi. I mean, yeah, I hear you. I hear you on that one. I feel like there's a lot of reservation about that. Here's an outside one. Robbie Fowler. He's done great jobs in Indonesia. I think it was in Saudi. I don't know if it's on Saudi. In Indonesia, I think it's Thailand as well. Uh, I don't know. I think he's too inexperienced to take on the hot seat at Liverpool, in my opinion. Wayne says Luis Enrique, he's out of the contract at the end of the season. Maybe we could get him a year early. I got him on the list. So yeah, bear with me. We'll speak about him very shortly. Um, I wonder if we have Fabregas in our sites. He's doing a great job at Comma. You guys are on fire today. He's on my list as well, so we'll talk about him very shortly as well. Lee says, I'd really like a Prem experienced coach for the long term. I'd take Emery or Frank. That's Thomas Frank, not Frank Lampard, I assume Lee. Um, Emery's a shout, to be fair. I've actually not added him in the list, but he's a shout because of, what he's done over the years. I do feel like he does have the pedigree to be a coach at a big club. I don't think he was given a fair crack at Arsenal, and that may have hindered his reputation a little bit, to be honest with you. Um, but yeah, um, Thomas Frank, if he was still at Brentford, then I would have said he would have been prime target. But because he's at a new job, I don't think it would be easy to get him away from the club. So yeah, not a viable option only because Daniel Levy would probably ask for a ridiculous amount of compensation as well. So yeah, got to deal with Tottenham in that regards as well. Not as a coach, but on the team. Is that in regards to Thiago? Yeah, I'd have him as a coach, 100%. Yeah, he's part of the coaching staff for Barcelona. He is, but I feel like he could become a I feel like he could become a manager in the near future. I feel like he has the capability. I've seen, clips here and there where he's been talking tactics in terms of how he would deploy a team. So I feel like he's got it in the locker. So yeah. And then in the near future, possibly. He said F no, not Lumpy Lampard, yeah. Italiano from Bologna. I'm not sure who that is. Okay, that's an interesting one. That's not someone I'm too familiar with, but I'll have to do my research on him. Is he the current coach, or he's the current coach of Bologna? Okay, that's an interesting one. Yeah, I'm not too familiar with him, but that's interesting one. Big up to yourself, but I'll have to look into that one. He says Spurs sack manager all the time. He'll be free soon. Fair enough, Lee. Thoughts on Glasner as the LFC manager? He's on the list, so bear with me. We'll speak about him very shortly. I heard Oliver doesn't like to rotate at all. I'm not sure about his low blocks. Yeah, that would be my concern. Um, if he was to be appointed as a Liverpool coach. Um, but yeah, we can talk about that shortly as well. Both agreeing in terms of the match. Yes, so Italiano. That's the name I've made a note now, so I'm gonna have to look into how he's been as a coach at the club. Alonso with Stevie G as assistant, my top preference. I don't think Stevie G would accept that personally. Uh, on paper, that would be the dream, but he wouldn't accept that. Cole says there are some good videos about him. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna check that out. I've made a note of his name now, so appreciate you putting that in the comment. Yeah, I'll have a look into it because if he's someone that really stands out, we might have to do a part two. We can talk about other candidates because I'm sure I would have missed a few today. Um, but yeah, definitely one I'm gonna have to look out for. Okay, not a big name as such, but he has managed clubs like Dortmund and Red Bull Leipzig, and that is Marco Rose. His football philosophy is very much attacking football, and I feel like it could, fit in terms of the way we play and the profile players that we have in our squad. But I don't think he is of the highest level, and I don't think he would be good enough to be Liverpool coach. But in terms of his philosophy, it could be someone we could look at. But then the question would be, would you want to sack Slot for a coach like Marco Rose? For me, no. I would probably keep Slot if I'm being honest with you, and wait for the guy at the end of the season. That's how I would look at it. So yeah, before you guys crash out and throw something at your TV, just just let me just say, what placed him on the screen for you guys. I've only placed him because he's a Liverpool fan, so that's a tick box that he would have a passion in the role. Football philosophy, yes, plays great attacking football, but as a coach, he has shown a lot of negatives, especially his sort of last period at Tottenham, where his team just didn't know how to defend. Um, and then you've got his time at Nottingham Forest where he couldn't get a win. So now I just thought I'd put it out there. Um, but no, it's funny. If we had this conversation 2 years ago, he might have been in consideration, but now it's a no go. So, but yeah, I thought I'd raise it. Brendan Rodgers is available as well, but I thought I was already taking a mick by adding him, so I wasn't going to add Brendan Rodgers to the screen either. Now, this is a bit left. And the reason I'm saying it's a bit left because he's not high profile, but he does have a connection with the squad and he does have a connection with Michael Edwards. So, if you guys will remember, he was one of our coaches at Liverpool for the under 21s, I believe. And he learned his trade as a coach at Liverpool. And whenever he's gone to Bournemouth or Wolves, of course, his times hasn't gone well there, based on results. But his team's played really good football. So I don't think he's good enough to be the first team coach at Liverpool. But I do feel like there's a coach there. So I don't know. Maybe I thought I'd raise the point because there is a connection, but I don't think he's of that level. But I thought let me bring him to the table. Let's see what people think. But yeah, not for me, unfortunately. Now, before we talk about long-term candidates, let me just go through some of the comments here. Here we go. Well, says, does Terzic, the former uh, Dortmund manager, have a job? Let me have a check. I think he does because I don't remember seeing him. Um, no, I don't. I think he could be available. So that's a potential candidate as well. But I think the Liverpool job will be just too big for him personally. I don't know if he'll be able to deal with the pressure of managing a huge club. I know he's managed Dortmund, but I think his time wasn't the best there either. So I would have some reservations, but he's still a name. He's a potential candidate, I guess. Lee says, you know what? I reckon Gerrard's humble enough to do it if he wanted to end up in charge. He's worked for Academy for years. The Academy was more so because he was learning the ropes of becoming a coach. I think at this stage, I feel like he's probably disappointed with how things ended at Villa and at his club in Saudi as well. And due to that, I feel like I think he wants to get back into being the main manager at another club. I feel like he wants to do that one more time at least before he considers being a number two elsewhere. I don't think he'll be a number two. I think he would consider to be number two at Liverpool, but I feel like right now I don't feel like that's in his full mind in terms of having the next role being number two, if that makes sense. But you never know. Filter kick. I knew that was going to bring a bit of a reaction, but just had to put it out there. Nice Liverpool fan, he's a better manager than Ange. Yeah, based on what we saw over the weekend, he definitely is. And he's not good enough. Nah, I agree. No, we're getting into Roy Hodgson. Yeah, as I was going through that list, I was like, yeah, the quality is definitely decreasing, but still had to mention it, didn't I? The Stuttgart manager that Paul Joyce said Liverpool were looking at before slot, Holness, Holness. Yeah, Sebastian Holness is his name. Okay, another name to look out for, I think. Um, Wayne said possibly no Highline, please. No, don't worry. He's not one of my candidates. I'm not going along that line, but I just thought maybe some fans might like that because of the way he played football. I, for one, don't think he's good enough at all. Yeah, Peters, big up Peters. Kelly Kate knows a bit about football. Yeah, I'm sure she does. I would be surprised if she doesn't. Paul said he did take Dortmund to Champions League final, was 1 point behind Bayern. Yeah, no, you're very right on that point. I just don't know if it's the right fit for Liverpool. That would just be my reservations. To be fair, everyone's saying yeah, as a pundit, Villa was down to their fans not trusting that his heart was in Liverpool and it was his wife wanted to leave Saudi. Yeah, I think the Saudi one. I think results weren't going great either, and I feel like it was a mix of professional plus personal. I think maybe yeah, like you mentioned, his wife didn't wanted to leave there, so he was very close to getting that Rangers job, but he kind of pulled out. I don't know for what reason. But I feel like based on how he talks in the media, because he's been in the media quite a bit, I feel like he will want to test himself one more time as a head coach. I feel like he's still got that about him, and I feel like he wants to know not have any regrets because he's still a very young coach, in this football world. So I feel like he would want to test out his ability again and see if he can muster it at the top. That's how I would. That's the assumption that I get from Gerard. To be fair, Peter says it was an attempt at comedy to match Angela. Fair enough, there, Peter. Okay, let's talk about the long-term candidates because a lot of the names have been mentioned today in the chat. So the first one's Junior Nagelsmann. Now, we got to Ahmed. He mentioned earlier in the chat that apparently, according to I think it's Bayern, they mentioned that Richard Hughes contacted Nagelsmann to see what his current situation is. um, with his current job. As you all know, he is the current national team coach for Germany. So for me, I don't think that is a viable option to appoint him now. But I will be honest with you, he'll be very high on my shortlist as a potential successor to Arne Slot. I feel like in terms of his philosophy, even at his previous clubs, plays the brand of football that I think us Liverpool fans would really appreciate. He's still very young, but still highly experienced, despite his tender age as a coach, I guess. But even if you watch the German national team, Wirtz looks like a different player, and I feel like it's just familiarity more for Wirtz, and I don't feel like we've utilized him correctly at Liverpool. But I feel like he can get the best out of those type of players because he has that attacking philosophy. So I feel like he could be one of our prime targets, if I'm being honest with you. And of course, the rumor coming out today. I'm not saying we don't know if there's any truth to it, but um, we could definitely hold some weight to it where we feel like he could be someone that the club are looking at. So therefore, what do we do? We have to find an interim coach, or you keep Slot until end of the season and then bring Nagelsmann in. But then my concern with that would be, what if we don't qualify for top four? Because that is unthinkable for me right now. We need to try and finish in the top four this season. Otherwise, all that hard work we've done over the years just goes to pear shape. It really does. So Nagelsmann, for me, one of the candidates that I feel like could be someone that I would be fully on board with, but he's one of a few that I would consider right now. Another one is Luis Enrique. Wayne mentioned him earlier on today. So he's got 1 year left, or this is his last year as coach of PSG. Um, I don't know if there's any sort of contractual talks that they're having right now to extend his contract, but based on what we know, his contract ends at the end of the season. So could he be a potential candidate? He would be a dream candidate to me. Just the way PSG played football last season, it was absolutely sensational. And that was a team where I feel like we just couldn't really touch them. I know we won the first leg, but tactically, they they outplayed us in every department. Like I saw the levels in coaching between Slot and Luis Enrique. It was different levels, and I feel like that was a big lesson for Slot coming up against PSG. So why not appoint the guy that taught him a lesson in Luis Enrique? So I think he would be the perfect candidate. If I'm being honest, if you're like, guys, just give me a name, realistic or not, who would it be? It'd be Luis Enrique, just because of what he's showcased last year at PSG, and I feel like he's got the right experience. The As a player and as a coach, I feel like he's got the right mentality. He's the way he speaks to his players after matches. He's like not giving top hugs, but he's like really, really like connected with his players, and I feel like that's something that we'll feel as a fan. Like, I feel we'll bond it. Create a bond with this manager as well, due to those kind of things as well. He speaks English, speaks very good English, to be fair. So communication shouldn't be a problem. And I feel like he's managed enough over the years in different places to come to England and test his credibility as a coach. So I would love for this to be the appointment. Um, I just don't know how realistic it is. I just feel like we'll just get breaking news at some point that he signed a bumper deal with PSG. That can happen anytime. Or if Pep Guardiola decides to leave in the near future, maybe they view Enrique as his replacement. I don't want to put the energy out there, but it's a possibility. So for me, this would be the guy that I would want as the dream sign. But of course, even if he was the dream appointment, it wouldn't be now. It would have to be end of the season. So we go back to the interim position. What do we do? So yeah, he would be top on my list, to be honest with you. Let me go through some of the comments. Listen, like I said, get a championship side promoted, then come here as assist. Yeah, I hear you. She's a Dalglish. Must have picked up a few tips. I'm saying he can get the best out of Verts. Yeah, he's been very vocal about Verts. That's in regards to Nagelsmann. Here's some definite no's. Not Tommy Chubb. Not Gareth Nosegate. Not Latina Maria. So you'll be happy to know I don't have any of those. So yeah, the positive goalie was just the wild card I had to throw out there. But yeah, it shouldn't get any worse than that. Definitely not Ten Hag. Oh hell no, that's not even a consideration. Brendan Dodgers. Nah. I was gonna feature it as a joke, but I thought that would have been a joke too far. So now Guardiola next national coach could be. When does his contract end for Man City? 2027. So I don't think it'll be this summer, but maybe in the near future. Roy Hodgson. Wow, no, no. God forbid. Let him remain in retirement right now. Bo says Klopp, Inzaghi, Italiano, Alonso Gel for me. Some decent shouts there. Who do you reckon wins the World Cup 2026? I'd go for France personally. I think they're the favourites. In my eyes, I think they've got the quality of players all the way around in terms of squad depth. So I would go with France to be fair. What about the Atalanta manager who beat us 3-0? I've forgotten his name, but yeah, he definitely showed us or showed Jurgen Klopp a thing or two that day, didn't he? I think he's towards the latter stage of his career, so I don't think it'll be a viable option. Honestly, I think Norway's got an underrated squad. They'll go far, but not that far. I hear you. He won the end of his contract. If he wins the league, this is he'll go. This is his last team build. If that's in regards to Enrique, then we need to go all for him, honestly. Both say Norway. Interesting. I would say he thinks it's Spain. Yeah, Spain are very high level right now. Got some great players there, but I think France for me. Lee says Portugal for Jota is my tip. You got yourself as that. Jasperini, that's his name. Yep, Jasperini. Roma. Oh, he's at Roma now. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, okay, fine. I didn't know he's at Roma, but yeah. Okay, let's move on. Xabi Alonso. Now, probably thinking, why have I got Xabi Alonso here? Look at the context. He's Real Madrid manager. He is top of the La Liga. It's his first season. Why would we consider, or why would he decide to leave? Apparently, there's rumors circling that his job is under fire, despite you know doing very well so far this season. Um, the players haven't warmed up to impress. That's what the rumor is, and the hierarchy are considering his position at the end of the season. So, if that is the case, he needs to be one of our prime targets as well. Because when Jurgen Klopp left, I'm sure a lot of us would have said Alonso as the next manager because he ticked a lot of boxes, i.e., former player. So he knows what the club is about, he knows what the city is about. Um, and he showed some great sort of ability as a coach in terms of his tactics for Bayer Leverkusen, and now he's deploying it at Real Madrid. So he's got the pedigree of being a top level coach. So for me, I don't he's top right now, so he might end up winning La Liga by the end of the season. But I feel like if there is any option to get him, I think we have to go all in. So for me, it's between Alonso, Enrique, and Nagelsmann. Out of all of those three names, I might give it to Alonso just because of his know-how to what the Premier League is about. being a former player of Liverpool, and I feel like he will get the best out of this team. He's already got a few former players in ping pong, Florian Wirtz. So that for me tells me that it's going to work. And if we were to switch to his Leverkusen formation, when we're playing three at the back and we're playing with wing backs, I think we have the personnel to do that as well. I feel like we'll need to bolster the squad with a couple centre backs at least. But the rest of the squad, I think we're fully equipped to play, his style of play. So I would, if I was at to rate the numbers, I think with Enrique, I feel like it's not as realistic. So that's probably why I'm thinking, it might not happen. But Alonso ticks a lot more big boxes, if I'm being honest with you, because I feel like there's a bit more experience in him, being a former player, and I feel like he'll warm to the role straight away. So for me, Alonso has to be a top candidate if the rumors are to be believed that he is going to, or his role is under question at Real Madrid. So I would take him personally. Um, but also Real Madrid is such a shitty club. The players are so babies. Yeah, I think one of the players complaining is Vinicius. So I don't know. Yeah, don't know what's wrong with that club. To be fair, Xavi knows the city, knows the Premier player, and loves the club. Yep, facts. There is a toxic environment too. Many egomaniacs, the players and the fans. Yeah, the fans are definitely spot, and they feel privileged as well. So that's not really a good trait to have, is it? Yeah, and one rat. Fan owned. Uh, Football, the fans and the players and city would love it. I think so. I think that's correct me if I'm wrong. Go back to the time when we knew Jurgen Klopp was leaving. Who was your number one candidate? From what I remember, I think it was Alonso and Ruben Amorim that were the two prime names that were linked to the job. I think the slot came kind of out of the blue. So for me, Alonso was the one I really, really wanted at the time. Real Franco's faces gift to the Royals. He unspurred and then replaced FM. Yeah, Roger players owned, not fan owned. Yeah, don't have respect for Real Madrid as a club for obvious reasons. So yeah, I agree with everyone what everyone said in the chat. So yeah, Alonso for me, if the rumors are true, prime target. Now this is a name that's become quite popular in recent weeks, and that is Andoni Iraola. Now, in terms of what he's done at Bournemouth, I feel like he's definitely, really reinvented the club in terms of the way they're playing because they're playing a different brand of football. Um, and even as Bournemouth manager, he's been linked with, he was linked with the Real Madrid job before Alonso got it. So, they hold him of high regards in Spain as well. And we have to consider the fact that Richard Hughes was the sporting director that brought him to England, of course, at Bournemouth. And it was regarded as a major coup because there was a lot of big clubs. I think Tottenham were one of the clubs as well that wanted Irala, and he managed to somehow bring him to Bournemouth. So, is he a potential candidate? I think he is. To be fair, if we wanted to appoint someone now, with them having that medium to long term view that this is the guy to take us forward, I can see us going for Iraola now. Like we'll tell Bournemouth, look, we want Iraola. What's the compensation? Because I'm sure Richard Hughes will know the figure, and I think they'll bring him aboard. This is one I feel like they would consider now, ahead of the other candidates. We've mentioned Alonso, Nagelsmann, and Luis Enrique, but they're not currently available. So if the Liverpool board are impatient and they want to get someone now to change the fortune at the club, Iraola would be the high in terms of that criteria. Someone that's got the potential good enough to come in and change things around. Um, my reservation would be in terms of his philosophy. his side in terms of the way Bournemouth play, they're more of a counter-attacking team. I feel like being, a Liverpool coach or being in charge of Liverpool, you've got to play high possession football. You have to be the dominant team going forward. So I think if they wanted to get a new manager now and someone that is available, he's not available as such, but I feel like if we knocked on the door, he'll come. I think it will be Iraola. So he will definitely be high on that short list. Um, if they didn't want to take that interim route, if they didn't want to get Jurgen Klopp, or if they didn't want to get someone like that, then this will be the guy that comes in. So and they'll probably bring some money with him as well. So yes, this would be someone that has the potential likelihood of coming to Liverpool, and with the Richard Hughes connection, I think that plays a big part as well. So yeah, one to watch, I would say definitely. Um, let's go. That's big up that. Ozzy, big up Ozzy. Do you know if Buzz is available for Wednesday? No, we haven't got any confirmation. I'm sure Stock will confirm tomorrow. I think he'll be out for at least a week or two. I don't think it was a small injury where he was just out for one game. So I'll be very surprised if he's involved against the PSV game. Listen, Alonso was the only candidate mentioned until he said he didn't want the job. Only then was Amrin mentioned. Bullet dodged there. Yeah, bullet dodged there for Amrin for sure. Definitely. Lee says, I say it's 100% going to be a roller because of the Jerry. Yeah. And then if it's someone that needs to be replaced now rather than us waiting or having an interim and then have a new manager next season, I think Irola would be top of that list. So yeah, I do agree with you on that one. Bo says, Ozzy, do you think if we lose 2-0 against PSV and 5-4 against West Ham, will he get sacked by FSG? Like 100% honesty. If those are the score lines, 5-1 against West Ham, bloody hell. Yes. He gets sacked 100%. But I'm gonna take away those score lines. If the PSV, I don't think the PSV one holds too much weight for me. Maybe because I'm feeling the sort of the annoyance that we're doing so bad in our league, and I feel like we have to get back on track and start winning games in the Premier League. Maybe that's my focus right now. But at the same time, we do need to get wins in the Champions League. We need to climb up that table and try and qualify for the next stage. But look, if I'm not confident about that West Ham game. I'll be brutally honest with you. I'm not confident at all. Like for me, the last draw was the Forest game. So if he loses against West Ham and he's still at a job, I question FSG a, as businessmen or businesswomen, because there's a lot of people involved there. Um, because you can't accept a manager losing back-to-back games because you're just devaluing the squad right now. We spent 400 million plus in the summer. That is not good enough. I don't want to hear excuses from anyone to say, "Oh, you gotta wait for the team to gel." Listen, we've not shown any signs of us playing at a decent level. We're very much a disjointed team. So for me, not good enough. We need to change direction. We need to find someone else to take on board. And maybe Iraola, the man on the screen, could be that guy. He said he would have the quality of player here. Bournemouth got them. Yeah. So that's a very good point. Like in terms of the way they attack, I like the pattern of play that they present. But you're right, maybe he doesn't have the quality of players to play that high possession football. So it's a very good point. But I'm just gonna go based on what I've seen. Because we can always assume that if you have better players that they will do better. Like I would assume Arne Slot with better players would play better football. But he hasn't, he's digressed. So logic will tell you that's how it should work. But currently Slot is evident. He's the proof right now that he doesn't. So I still have to have reservations about Iraola as the next coach. Excuse me. Honestly, Ozzy was wondering what you think of Frank at Tottenham. Do you think he's a bit out of his depth at Spurs at the moment? Lots of fans, Spurs fans, unhappy. I actually thought it was a good fit personally. The reason why Spurs fans are unhappy because he's not a coach that plays their brand of football. If you go over the history, especially in the 90s, Tottenham were renowned to play, real good football, like champagne football. Results and trophies didn't really come into it, but the fans appreciate the brand of football that was on the pitch. And when you don't have that aligned, it's very hard to get people on board. And look, the argument could be the same for Arne Slot, where maybe a lot of us weren't too pleased with the brand of football of Arne Slot last season, but he was winning games, he was getting results, and he brought the league title home. So maybe last season we just left that one side and be like, "Do you know what? We're getting the results, we're getting the trophies, so it doesn't really matter about the brand of football. As long as we're winning, we're all happy, right?" But when the gets tough and we're not getting the results, now we're seeing that he's not good enough. So that's just how football works. We can be slight hypocrites as football fans, but I think that's why he may be having a bit of a difficult time there. I think he's a really good coach personally. Um, it just doesn't meet the ethos of that club in terms of what they want. But you know, he's definitely for me made them more defensively sound because to be fair, on and Postecoglou, I don't think ever trained his team to be defensively focused, but he made them into a very stronger unit as a collective. So you've got to give him points for that. They've just not been getting the results. Of course, the result over the weekend doesn't help either. Um, I don't think that was them. I just feel like the fans are being a little bit impatient with him right now. He says, do Bournemouth face similar tactics from opponents as Liverpool do? No, that would be my observation because when Bournemouth play teams, no one plays a low block against Bournemouth. So, it's different tactics, but that's the risk you take when you appoint a coach with high potential. And that's what would be the case here. Um, Lee says still rather have Zerbi and Emre. Emre definitely has the credentials to be fair. Now, in terms of Zerbi, I do have him listed, so we'll talk about him very shortly as well. Um, Obviously, that setup he had against Arsenal was criminal. Yeah, it was. So I feel like that's why he's getting the backlash right now more than anything else. To be fair, but also the same for me. The West Ham game is so much more important. Yeah, that's how I feel right now. To be honest with you, um, Bowen scored 1-0 after 10 minutes. Bloody hell! Do you know what? That's not even a one play. That's the theme right now. Teams are scoring against us in opening 10 minutes, and our heads are down after that, and we can't seem to get back on track. So this is a mentality issue within the squad. It's in the short term. I'd get uh Heinzinger. Who's Heinzinger? Let me Google that. Heinzinger. You mean Heinzinger? I think you mean Heinzinger, right? Um, Listen, maybe he was the reason why we were successful last season. Maybe he was the unsung hero because since he's left, things have gone a bit left, haven't they? So, um, yeah, it's a fair point to be fair. I did say this a few weeks ago, but I don't feel like fans are fully engaged with that, or feel like that is the reason why we've gone down a level. I said down level. I probably said down a few levels to be honest with you, but yeah, something needs to change. I don't know where I'm not. I don't know what Van Broncos brings to the table. And when you're seeing the way we're playing, I feel like maybe he's not an adequate coach either. So something needs to change. I can say that for sure. West Ham, it depends on who scores first. Every game we have won this season, we have scored first. When the Ops score first, we lose. I think they'll score first. As annoying it is, I think they will score first, to be fair. Lisa Brink, Thiago Alcantara as midfielder and set piece coach. The only first team player who ever liked a reply of mine on Twitter. You got to give him a shout out, isn't it? Of course. Other said, Ozzy, do you think it's Zabi? Love is a good candidate. Do you fancy his system? I do, to be fair. And, the players that really flourished in that system are currently at Liverpool, in Florian Wirtz and Jeremy Frimpong. So, he doesn't need to play a back four. He can revert to the Bayer Leverkusen, setup. And I feel like, we have the personnel, we have the players to play that system. So yeah, I think we can. I think, and not only that from a tactical point of view, as an individual and as a coach, he ticks all the boxes. Former player, of course, knows the club, knows the city, will understand the expectations from the fans, has a connection with the fans already. So, doesn't have to work on anything in that regards. Will be loved and appreciated by the supporters. He has to be one of our prime targets if Liverpool are willing to wait at the end of the season. If the board are frustrated now and they want to make an appointment right away, I can see it being Iraola. I think that would be the one now. But if they're willing to wait, then maybe get someone in as an interim and then bring in the guy, whether it's Alonso, Enrique, or Nagelsmann. For me, it's one of those three because those are the top quality coaches that I feel like can come in and make a difference at Liverpool. I don't really want us to go with someone that's untested at the highest level and also someone from, I don't mean to disrespect, sort of a league that's not the top five leagues in Europe, if that makes sense. So, we've got to learn from our mistakes. Other than he means Heiting. I'll figure who on earth is this Heisinger? But yeah, I'll gather that eventually. Um, Lee says our assist coach last season went Ajax and got sacked. Yeah, he's available, so bring him back. Why not? Man turned a Dutch coach into a German coach. Yeah. Oh, I see. Yeah, that's all right. My sound breaking up. Apologies. Let me see if I can. Hello, hello, hello. Yeah, should be fine. If there is any further issues, please do let me know in the chat. Bosses, do you think there's some players who don't like Stolzy? I think I can't say it for definite, but do you feel like a lot of players have lost faith in the coach just by the way they're playing? There doesn't seem to be any desire or any fight within the squad. So I wouldn't be surprised if the large section of the squad are not happy with him. I really don't. In terms of the new signings, I think a lot of them will not be happy with the coach. Verts for sure, Ekitike for sure, maybe even Isak to an extent. Although I think it's more Isak that he's not been fully fit and he's not really performed whenever called upon. But of course, he's lacking match fitness, and that whole transfer saga is affecting us in the short term because he had no preseason whatsoever. So it's a bit of a concern going forward. Lee saying it's okay now. I appreciate it. Thank you, Lee. Okay, it might have been my mic. It's maybe just the distance of where I'm talking, or maybe I'll be moving around. Um, Hopefully it's okay now. I think there's some who are pissed with him. Mm. Uh, Slot promised Vert a 10 robot plays him on the left. Yeah. Not only that, he's been playing in different roles. Like he's been playing on the right, a false nine. It's just like it's not what was promised. So you can understand in terms of why that is. Ozan's asked me, where do you see our next win, Ozzy? Ozan, I'll be honest with you, my friend. I don't know. I don't know. I really don't. Because on paper, we should be winning the next few games, but football doesn't work on paper. That's not how it is. So I don't know. I'm very concerned. Like the PSV game, I can see us getting a draw. But even if we were to get a win, I'm not going to be, oh yes, we're back. I'm slotting again. No, no, you're not going to hear that from me. 'Cause I've had enough into the what he's presented as a coach. And I don't know where it's coming from. I really don't. And that's my worry. Just because I feel like he's lost the dressing room and they're not playing for the coach anymore. And when that happens, you've got to make changes. You've got to make changes at the head of the table. And that's what needs to be done, in my opinion. Honestly, remember when Chris John said in October our games are like basketball games end to end? Not anymore. Not anymore. I honestly thought we were going to win against first. I did as well. I wasn't expecting a World Cup of class performance or anything of that nature, but I was expecting us to play more of a play more of a high sort of ball possession play or playing with a bit more dominance because we were at home. I always thought Newcastle would give us Newcastle. Nottingham Forest would give us issues, but I thought we'd have just nicked it at the end. That's why I envisioned. Far from it. Far from what was the reality, unfortunately. Lee says tomorrow Zambia will beat PSV because they'll come out to play. I don't know. The thing is, the coach might even notice, how terrible Liverpool have been. I'm sure it's the whole world knows that Liverpool have been terrible recently and might change the game plan. That's what some coaches do. To be fair, most coaches do. They do it on a game to game basis, and he might be like, let's deploy a different tactic. That's the only way to beat this team. So why not? Wayne in response to Bo, Ibu, Feda, Salah, Verts. Yeah. Ibu, I don't know about Ibu to be fair. I think Ibu's head's in Madrid right now. There's nothing the coach can do about that, unfortunately. But it's also the coach's, mistake or I don't know. He's in a difficult situation in that regards because we're not blessed with a lot of centre back options. Um, by far slot, and he's still at the job. He needs to be knocking on the door and say, "Look, get me two centre backs. I'm not having just one." Konate has been below par. I feel like he's gone. He's gone to Madrid. And that reaction when he was against Madrid, where he was smirking, and that really peed me off. Really peed me off. So I thought, you know what? Yeah, he's done out here for me. He does not deserve a new contract based on his performances this season. Nah, he don't deserve it. Not at all. I said the squad is in dire need of a moral boosting win. Yeah, but I'll be honest with you, Ozan. I don't think that's enough. I really don't. I thought the wins against Villa and Real Madrid would have really been that kickstart that we needed. And then we got schooled by Man City. And then we got destroyed by Forest. So for me, it's the coach. He's making the same mistakes. He's not learning from anything. And he's doing things in a very lazy manner. Just puts the team out there. I don't feel like he's got a real tactical, real way of playing. I don't think he analyzes the opponents. So how are we going to win games? Uh, Honestly, it is shocking. Lisa, they are the hammers, but the thing is, so are Forest. We gave Forest a jump start. We gave them the springboard to climb up the table now. And now we've given them the confidence going forward as well. So that's what we do. We're gifting people right now. Christmas has come early for a lot of teams in the Premier League. If you were start, would you start Ali against PSV? I would. I don't think Ali is the issue. It's bigger than Ali. It's what's in front of him that's the issue, in my opinion. So yeah, I would start him. Ozan saying big up 2000. Armin, big up everyone in the chat. Boss says, how do we lose against Sean Tyche at Anfield? It's awful. The crazy thing about that game, Gibbs White said afterwards that they felt very comfortable on the pitch. How can Forest feel comfortable playing at Anfield? This used to be a fortress over the years. Honestly, all that hard work we've done over the years, it's just going out the window. That's what it feels like right now. Lee says, I was always start. Yeah, I agree. I would always start Ali as well. You see Bill smiling when he was subbed of Dosper not scared of the man. Well, with Ibu, he's got no competition. So he can perform 1 out of 10 every week. He'll still start the next game. That's our problem. That's our fault that we didn't sign Mark Gahey or we didn't add more defenders to the squad. Of course, it's unfortunate in terms of what happened to Leone, so we've got one less member in the squad, but it's still our own, wrongdoings in terms of we should have signed another centre back in the summer. Lee says Forest were well drilled, had a plan and fought for the match. We looked at like a bus of retired cast. We did. We had no energy whatsoever. And look, I'm not here to sound like a privileged fan, and I feel like, just because we're Liverpool, we shouldn't lose games or whatnot. There's been times we've lost games. I'm like, you know what? Let's give credit to the opponent. They scored a fantastic winner, or whatever the reason is. This year is a lack of effort, lack of application, lack of energy, lack of desire. That's the number one thing you present to the table. You watch teams that don't have the quality of players that we have, but they always give their all on the pitch. This team, they're not doing that because I believe they've lost faith in the coach. And when that's happened, you've got to make changes. Simple as that. Boss said a boosting it is sacking the coach. Yeah, we will get that new manager bounce. I'm telling you. I'm telling you that would happen. He said we were grand against Madrid. Would we have been if they had scored first? Probably not. Maybe, but I feel like we were definitely. I think the players were more up for the occasion because it was Real Madrid, so they were pretty much already motivated themselves. I don't feel like it was a tactical masterclass. It's just that we played to our game. The players stood up and delivered, and that was the difference, in my opinion. Lisa, it's the capitulation and surrender when we go behind. Yeah, that is very true. He should start the academy player instead of Canales to set an example, but of course he would not. Listen, if we start Nello, unfortunately the kid might get another red card. No disrespect. I don't mean to be rude, but two performances and he's got two red cards. So for me, not the one. Uh, Lee says if we lose, we lose, but if we don't fight for the win, that's exactly. I think that's what we want as fans. We want you to fight for the badge. We want you to show that energy on the pitch, show that aggression, that tenacity. Mhm. They're not doing it at all. They're really not. That's my concern going forward. Deleuze, Steve, big up yourself. He says, I watched the call-in show earlier tonight. I see that you finally said the two words. Yeah, I think I said it to you on the watch along as well when they scored the third goal. I said it to you then, but I just confirmed it even further on the call-in show because, yeah, I tried to be a bit patient with the coach in comparison to other fans. I'm not saying other fans were wrong. Everyone's entitled to react a certain way. I just thought, let me think a bit more in a calm and measured way and give him the benefit of the doubt. He won us the league title, has a bit of credit in the bank. Let's see what he can do to change it up. But the way we lost to Forest, I can't accept that. And Forest were in the relegation zone before we played them on the weekend. So, yeah, honestly. He said Anfield was a cold run for Madrid as well. Yeah, that's true. Good on you, man. We need to get out of this mud. Yeah, we do. And it starts by getting a new manager. That's how I see it. The players are up for the Madrid game, but not to see a game 3 days later. Yeah, yes. Make that make sense. I think with it being a European night, the fans are a bit more up for it. So that atmosphere was really built on that. But I feel like with the Man City game, we actually started the game all right, but the tail of our season, whenever we concede, our heads fall down, and I feel like that's what happened again in that game. Um, and tactically, it was a different game for us because maybe we were thinking they're going to play the same way that Madrid played, but no, they targeted Konate. They knew he was the weakest link, and they gave him the ball. And what did he do? He couldn't hit a string of passes to save his life. So, you know, the motivation was there for the Madrid game. I'm sure it would have been there for the Man City game as well. But tactically, we were not there against Man City. We just got out fought, out muscled. We just got scored by Pep Guardiola. That's literally what happened that day. And it was the same lineup as well. Apply a different formation makes no sense. Wayne, how do you truly motivate multi-millionaires? Well, Jurgen Klopp's been able to do it over the years, so why not? All the best managers are able to do it. That's what you call man management. You've got to have a high level of skill sets to manage that type of players or multi-millionaires, however you want to phrase it. They're multi-millionaires not because of business, they are there because of their footballing ability. So if they want to continue to go on that route, they have to perform to the highest level because it devalues their stock as well at the same time. So, the best coaches, they get the best out of them. That's why they get to pay the big bucks as well. So Slot, for me, it has shown that he doesn't have the credentials to do it. He may not be able to. He may not be equipped to manage big egos, which you have to do at the highest level. Boss, you can't lose at home 3-0, but still have the job. That's FSG for you. Yeah, he won't make it to the end of December if he keeps losing. Yeah, I hope so. I hope that's the case. Um, let's see, because the club have said that they're in full support of Arne Slot, but when clubs say that, that doesn't always mean that is the actual viewpoint. They would have known or realized that things aren't working, so we need to come up with a plan B, and that's what they're probably doing behind the scenes right now. FSG bought two transfer records, did they not? They did, but the manager doesn't know how to use those two players. Like, I'll tell you honestly, and I'm going to stand by this. I don't think the players that we signed were bad players. I was very excited by the players that joined us this summer. It's just that they've not been played to their strengths. That's the issue right there. And when you're not playing players in their right positions or not allowing them to play their natural game, and you bought them based on the roles that they played in the previous clubs, then what do you expect? If Verts is playing right mid, false nine, and he's never really played in his career, he's not going to just become a top player in that role all of a sudden. Isak's not going to bang in the goals if we don't give him the ball. So we're not playing to these players' strengths and their sort of high skill set, and that's the concern. I do feel like Slot is out of his depth. That's how I'm viewing it right now. You may differ your opinion, but that's how I'm seeing it, unfortunately. Wayne says to Lee, yeah, the City game tactics were done at home in midfield. Yeah, it was. Still, I think he will 15 games with losses, but he will still have a job. I feel that would be terrible. Whether he turns it around or goes, it will happen soon. I reckon. I hope so, Lee. I hope it happens soon because a change needs to be done very soon, in my opinion. Delu still say his credit in the bank has run out. Yeah, he's overdrawn now. We gotta get rid. Man City did the swamp Virgil press to force CB on the ball, and we kept. Yeah, our tactics didn't change. We didn't alter our tactics. This is my concern with Slot as well. Last year he did that. He did change tactics, during the game. But this year he's not doing that. At half time, he doesn't do anything. He'll do it in the 50 or 55th minute, bring on a striker and make it into a 4-2-2, 4-4-2, sorry, or 4-2-4 formation where you're throwing the kitchen sink. But why Liverpool Football Club always throwing the kitchen sink at every game, regardless of the opponent? We're always doing that. That for me shows that there's a lack of quality or lack of faith in our current group of players, which for me is ridiculous because these are top quality players in our squad. So for me, that is not acceptable. It really isn't. Honestly, the reason really started to go downhill after that Gio Leone injury. The castle crumbled after that. You know what's funny? When I was watching that game, I was so impressed with Leone's performance, and I thought, do you know what? Finally, we got someone to challenge Konate, and Konate would have known that as well. He would watch that game and thought, do you know what? This kid might have something about it, and I just picked up that unfortunate injury, and yeah, now we're on eggshells because we've got Joe Gomez, who's a defender who can play right back, left back, but he's fragile when it comes onto the pitch. If he picks up an injury, which his tracker will tell you that is the case, we are doomed. We don't have anyone behind that. We don't have any backup defenders. So now we're like forced to play Konate regardless of his performance, and that shouldn't be the case at all, especially for a club like Liverpool. Boss says, Peter, I'm not talking about that. I would rather produce talents from the academy than break the transfer record. It's about the coach, Peter. At least with a double pivot, you don't need to use a centre back as the connection if you really must play out. And Mel's not great with the ball. Yeah, he's not. He's a good shot stopper. I'll give him that, but he's not great with his feet. I feel very nervous when he does have the ball at his feet. To be honest with you, so yeah, I do see your point there. Definitely commentator saw they were doing that. So coaches must have. Boss Ozzy, I hate Slot for the way he treated Kwanzaa, Chiesa, Elliot, but doing nothing about Salah, Virgil, Ibu. He has the ball against the youth, but against the big boys, he crumbles. Yeah, that's true, to be fair. Kane Ramsey at right back, FFS. It's his natural position. We need Dom in midfield, and we can't risk our only centre back cover as fullback either. Factually, like the biggest mistake was to play Sabozlai at right back against Forest. That should not have been an option at all. I can't accept that. Can't accept that. Even if you played Jones at right back, I would have understood that because you've got a progressive player on the pitch where the player next to him would have been Konate, and he's been poor from a hmm, passing range. So that would have made tactical sense to do that as well. But no, Sabozlai, your best player this season, using him like a utility player where he's playing different roles, not acceptable for me. Not at all. What is Bert's injury? What's his ETA for return? At the minute, we're not aware. It's not been confirmed by Slot. He made it seem like he wasn't that far away. My guess would be he'll be back next week. So I think he might be a couple weeks out. That would be my estimate, to be fair. But also, Slot his youth. That's why Rams didn't play. If that's the case, then for me, he's not good enough to be Liverpool coach. We have to give our young players a pathway into the first team. We've been one of those clubs over the years, especially in the Premier League, that have allowed our youngsters the opportunities to stake a claim. He says Jones is a better choice, but then you have all your midfielders apart from Endo. Yeah, I hear you on that part as well. It's a catch-22, isn't it? Where you're doing one thing to benefit the team, but then you're also affecting the numbers elsewhere. So yeah, I don't know. I would have wanted Jones to have started that one. To be fair, both the clock was so good with that, but so just sold them all. Yeah, I don't know. That Palace game really, for me, to showcase his viewpoint as a coach. Where I thought he would have given youngsters a chance, but no, doesn't seem to be the case. Okay, let's move on to. I have a few more candidates. So Oliver Glasner now. For me, definitely has the credentials. He has performed well into his previous club in Frankfurt, winning silverware there, and then at Crystal Palace, he brought their first silverware FA Cup, beat us in the Community Shield. Although that's not really a trophy, but we'll let them have it in this discussion here. But is he the right fit? I don't know. I don't know. I guess on paper the formation wouldn't be too dissimilar to what Alonso would do, but at the same time, Alonso has a different way of playing. Just because it's the same formation doesn't mean the style of play is the same. We play in Alonso's team. We play with high energy, high press, whereas a Glasner team is more low block or mid block even, and you're not really, charging up against the opponent unless you're on the counter attack, and you're not playing quick passing. You're not playing quick transitions, so it's a different way of playing. But he could be someone that comes in and uses his experience to settle the ship a little bit, I guess. I don't know. There's something about. Not fully sold on Glasgow, to be fair, just because the brand of football that's been played at Palace for me is not enticing. It's not something I want to see at Liverpool or at Anfield. And also, you know, slightly off topic in terms of tactics, but his stance with the Margay one, for me, that's sour grapes right there because I believe he was the reason why that move didn't happen. He gave the ultimatum. He was like, if he goes, I'm going." Like that's what I feel like came across in that transfer deadline day. So for me, that doesn't bode well either. So yeah, so I'm not fully on board with Glasner. Tactically, it could work, but uh, tactically, it doesn't entice me either. If I'm being brutally honest with you, um, De Zerbi. So he's a player that a lot of fans, not a lot of fans now, but there are still a few fans that think he could be the person that comes in or could come in to do a job. I personally, I'm not on board with that. To be fair, he showed, you know, innovative ideas and way of playing when he was the Brighton coach. But I think as an individual, he's definitely got a temperament. Um, I don't think he would fit well at the club in terms of his personality. I don't feel like it would be a good match to have De Zerbi at the club. So for me, not a viable option. And final candidate is Cesc Fabregas. Now he's getting a lot of rave reviews right now due to the way he's setting up his team in Syria, which is of course Como, and it's very intriguing to see what he's doing there. Like he's normally playing a 4-2-3-1, but they change shape during games. It can switch to a 4-2-2, but it's not just the formation switches. The players are so versatile. Where you got your left back playing centre mid, you got your centre mid playing left wing, like they're just moving around everywhere, and they're really confusing their opponents with this tactic. Um, so it's a breath of fresh air in terms of the way he's deploying these tactics. Could we go a bit early and get him before his ideas become so grand that everyone wants to try and get him on board? It's possibly. Would he come to Liverpool? I can't guarantee it. I don't know. Um, because his ambitions might be to manage Barcelona one day, or maybe Arsenal, or maybe those two clubs that he holds of high regards. He would, of course, respect Liverpool as a football club and as a city as well in terms of our accolades and all that sort of stuff. But I don't know if if he would come on board. That would be my opinion, to be fair. But in terms of what he's doing, he's definitely someone that I'm keeping an eye on because I'm intrigued to see, how he progresses as a coach. But it's quite nice to see a coach, you, deploying different tactics, different way of playing, trying to be innovative with their team shape and trying to get the best out of the players that he has. So definitely one that I it might appear as a trendy name because he's doing so well. So the test will be, is there any longevity in his coaching? Is this going to be deployed at a high level? Can he do it on the big stage? Only time will tell. But he's showing some good credentials as a coach. And remember, as a player, he was fantastic, for Arsenal breaking into the team as a 16, 17-year-old, up against, when they had really good players as well. Um, when he went over to Barca, he was the guy that whenever Messi wasn't playing, he took that false nine role and, produced the goods there as well. Played in different roles, played as a deep playmaker in his latter stages of his career, box to box, attacking midfielder. He could do everything. So he was a very, very talented player. And it looks like, he's using all of that experience and maybe, he's come up with a game plan um, into his coaching now. And maybe that's something that, we'll probably see in years to come. He could become a really top coach in the near future. So, I'm sure that's someone that they would look at. Um, the data metrics will be quite high. I would assume in regards to his football philosophy as a coach. But whether we can get him on board, I'm not so sure. That would be my thing. But um, what he's doing is quite refreshing, and I'm very intrigued to see how he does going forward. So a name definitely to consider, but I'm not sure if it's as realistic as maybe some of the names that we presented today. So that's the last candidate I've got on to discuss today. So let me go through the comments and then we can close the show. Where did we go? So yeah, Dilly Steve said, "No, I have a grudge with Glasnost." I hear you, Steve. I do hear you on that one. Lee said, "I don't know enough about him other than he owes us a sense." Yeah, thanks again, Lee. I agree with that. Nice are still made though, just a polished turd. Yeah, the ban of football, it's not what would appease me, if I'm being honest with you. It's all good about coming here and being a defensive unit, but that's not what I want from Liverpool. We've got such great attacking players. Utilize them, not just be a defensive unit team. That's not for me. So no, I don't think it's the right fit um, in terms of what we want as a fan and what we're used to in terms of watching a brand of football over the years. So I just forgot to read that comment. So Bo says, I just came to think about that slot actually left kids out of the sea. Yeah, Champions League squads. I'd make it make sense, honestly. Delicious said Uncle Ross really wants Stevie G as manager. I'm not sure on the Stevie G one, to be fair. If Liverpool going with that interim route, it has to be Jurgen Klopp. That is the outstanding candidate, to be fair. The Steven Gerrard one, I would understand if the board feel like the guy that they want isn't available. So let's wait until end of the season. Then we get him next summer. That would be my only acceptance for Gerrard to join. But other than that, I'm not fully on board. If I'm being honest with you, he says don't want an ex Arsenal Chelsea player. Okay, that's fair enough. We had a we had an ex Everton player as our coach, and I feel like he did wonders for us. So when it's coaching, when it comes to managerial thing, I feel like it kind of takes it away a little bit. But I know some fans still believe that they can't separate the player's career with the managerial position as well. At least the company would be better. And his shit. I don't think Company's a good coach personally. I don't rate him as a coach. I don't know how he got that Bayern Munich job. You know, his agent did a stellar job to get that for him because I don't rate him very highly. But also, Slot is such a boring man. Says the same thing over and over. I'm finding him very annoying nowadays. I just feel like he's too open with the media and reveals too much tactical insight when it shouldn't be said out loud. So that's what I find annoying. He just doesn't know how to play the game in terms of being the face of a club and not answering so honestly, and should I say, with honesty and with such transparency as well. That's not how you should be as a coach. Got to play the game. You got to take the pressure away from the players. Instead, you know, he'll put players not under the bus as such, but it could come across like that. So that's why I question his man management. I'm not sure what he's playing at right now. He's been making some very bizarre comments out loud. So yeah, crazy. Julius Steve has asked, "Who do you want, Oz?" That's the real question. I've got two in mind that I would really want. Um, I'm still on board with Xabi Alonso. I think he is the manager that ticks a lot of the boxes, and I feel like he can hit the ground running straight away based on his experience in the league as a player. Luis Enrique, I think, is a pipeline dream, so I'm probably not regarding him as a realistic target, although on paper he's on his last year of his contract, so he could be available next summer. Nagelsmann is another one that I like, but if I had to choose one, so if you ask me for one, it would be Xabi Alonso. That's the one that I would want to see at the club. If you believe the rumors, because apparently, you know, Real Madrid are not completely happy with what he's done so far, so they would want to maybe part ways with him at the end of the season. So for me, that would be the route to go, in my opinion. Um, but at the same time, you know, that would mean that Stott stays until end of the season, and I'm not for that at all. So I've got sort of two scenarios. So the best scenario would be to get someone next summer, and that would be of Alonso's caliber. Unless they, you know, the club are like, had enough, we need to make a change now. And they don't see Jurgen Klopp as a viable option. Because what I would do is have Jurgen Klopp as an interim coach until end of the season and then appoint either Alonso, Nagelsmann, or Luis Enrique, whoever is available. That's what I would do. That would be my master plan going forward. That's what I would do. But if Klopp, for some reason, doesn't want to take the job, I would take Gerrard as interim coach. Just because I have a viewpoint that at the end of the season we'll get a real top quality coach. That's what I would want from the club. But then I can also see the club going with that Iraola route as well, as an appointment for Slot right now. So yeah, for me it would be a lot get top for now until the end of the season and then get Alonso. That would be my master plan. Whether it's realistic or not, only time will tell, to be honest with you. Bo says Ali, Ramsey, Gomez, Virgil, Robbo, Graf, Sabozai, Jones, Chiesa, Ekatike, Rio is his team for PSV. We'll do the match review tomorrow, so I'll present my lineup with you guys and speak about it in more detail. Lee says I'd take Sereno Wagman. I don't even know who that is. so, Bo says there's some high profile realistic manager you would not take Aussie. High profile that I would not take. Mm, would Glasner be regarded as high profile in terms of our league? Because I wouldn't take him personally. Because I feel like when I'm thinking of high profile, a lot of them aren't realistic because they wouldn't part ways from their clubs. Um, in terms of our league, I might just say Glasner. I know he's not high profile like that, but um, maybe Company. I wouldn't take Company because he's at Bayern Munich, so I wouldn't take Company. I don't think he's good enough to be honest with you. I like Luis Enrique. I don't like Diego Simeone, so I wouldn't take him either. Um, so yeah, for me, it's about the football philosophy of these coaches, and yeah, a lot like the Simeones. Not impressed with him. So yeah, none of them to be fair. Lee says Xabi Alonso, as long as he plays four at the back with Golden. I think the way he played at Leverkusen, I don't mind the back three. I don't normally like three at the back as a formation. Um, but having said that, even with a back four, I feel like he would know how to get the best out of the team. So yeah, I think a lot of players will flourish under Xabi Alonso. I really do. Do Steve saying same? Klopp or Steve as interim? Yeah. Steve says don't think Klopp wants to return though. Man has a corporate job now. So that was always my thinking. Where I feel like he's left the club. He left us in a great place, and he thought, you know what? I gotta take a seat back now. Let me just relax. Let me enjoy being a granddad. Let me enjoy time with my grandchildren, and just take life a bit easy. So I understood because there was a lot of reasons as to why he decided to close the chapter at Liverpool. But that podcast interview that I did a few weeks ago, that's just rolling my mind that he said that he would consider it because it's Liverpool and it would only be Liverpool. And that's the only thing that I'm holding on to in with hope that if we approach him, he'll come. But you are still right though, Steve. You know, before that interview, let's say I didn't watch that interview and there was no quotes like that coming from Klopp, then I don't think he'll be a viable option. But because of that comment, I'm still holding on to some little hope that it will be him. Lee says Klopp has just signed as a German pundit for the World Cup. Yeah, so that's just for the World Cup. So he can still do a job for us now until the end of the season, and then we appoint another manager. So in that way, it works because then he's working until the end of the season, and then he can go on and do his obligation, which is to uh, be a pundit for German TV. Lions coach Jose, I don't even know who the Lions coach is. I don't really follow women's football, so I wouldn't have any idea. Duluth Steve said Oz, don't want Emery for sure. I don't mind Emery to be fair, but maybe because of his time at Arsenal, I feel like his profile is a little bit tainted. Maybe I would assume that he doesn't have the capability of managing a top club, and a club like Aston Villa is the perfect fit for him. Um, so yeah, but I do like him as a coach. I just don't think he would be a candidate for the board. So I don't see that happening. Delicious if Oz don't want Xavi or Zidane neither. Um, Xavi I'm a little bit unsure about, just because I don't know if he's got the credentials of managing a top club. I know he got the Barcelona job, but that was due to legendary status. In terms of Zidane, I don't think it's realistic. I don't think a job in England has ever appealed to him, whether it was as a player or as a manager. And I think he's destined to be the French national coach. So no, I don't think he would want to come here. Positive for me, Zidane never ever want him. But Edwards is here, so I think it won't happen. Klopp and him are not the biggest friends yet. They had their indifferences during there, so it might not work out. Gerard will bring that good feel factor, I think. Um, so yeah, but then I would question, is he tactically up to scratch to take us forward? It's all good as well, to, bring us that good feel factor about we need wins as well. We don't just need only cheering up. We need wins as well to cheer us up going forward. So yeah, I would have some reservations with that as well. But as a club alternative, and if we have someone earmarked for the summer, that I I would be accepting to that. To be fair, he says, "Oh look, my Pep Linders comment got removed." Oh, did I? I didn't remove anything, so I'm not sure what happened there. Not sure what you said. Um, I actually didn't see it come up, so no, that wasn't me. If you think it was me, um, but I would take clock for the next 5 years. If you wanted to, I would as well. I can't lie, I would as well. But I understand his position as well at the same time. He said if Tom Warner or Mike Gordon insisted, Edwards would have liked it. Yeah, potentially. Um, but yeah, the FSG. No, it was YouTube who removed it. I wonder why. What on earth did you say for YouTube to remove it? But yeah, I have no idea. But that is it for today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for staying up and watching 2 hours, talking for the last 2 hours. So yeah, big up everyone. So just shout out to, let's go from the top. Try and get everyone's name on screen. So shout out to Bo, shout out to Richie, Wayne, Lee. Who else we got? Um, Ahmed, Mr. Barry Smith. Big up yourself. Who else do we have? Mm, Shout out to Peter. Shout out to Delulu Steve. Shout out to Daz as well as always. And shout out to Ozan. Um, yeah, apologies if I missed you out, but yeah, shout out to you guys. Appreciate you commenting and engaging during the show. If you haven't already, please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. In terms of upcoming shows, I will be doing a live match preview of hmm, uh is it home the game tomorrow? Oh, sorry, on Wednesday. Let me double check. I feel like it's at PSV. No, it's at Anfield. So yeah, Liverpool versus PSV. So we'll do the match review tomorrow at 11 p.m. UK time. I will be joined by a guest, so look out for that. We'll get their take on the whole slot in slash slot out situation, and we'll discuss the game. We'll discuss tactics. We'll present our predicted lineups and see who we believe will start tomorrow. And yeah, we'll take it from there. But that is it for today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Take care, stay safe, and I hope to speak with you all very, very soon. Goodbye.